We're happy to have with us on the Sound of Jazz tonight a man who these days spends a lot of time in our area and has been working on the Sarasota Jazz Festival that you've been hearing a lot about here on WUSF and WSFP, and that is approaching in the coming week. Dick Hyman, thanks for taking some time from your busy schedule to join us.
Thank you very much, Bob.
You are a part-time resident of Florida, of our part of Florida these days, still between here and New York?
I still, you might say, commute to New York, and I run around the country playing concerts in various areas, but I spend as much time as possible here.
Mm-hmm.
We have a place in Venice, and it's now our fourth winter as true snow bunnies.
All right. Well, here's a belated welcome to Florida.
Thank you.
You, the rest of the time is...
Well, the rest of the time we're in New York, or as I say, I'm on the road somewhere.
As you put it on one of your liner notes on naughty 42nd Street.
Naughty, fraughty, bawdy 42nd Street, which is the line from the song of that name.
That's where that comes from.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
You're probably tired of being called Renaissance man, but all of your career, it seems to apply, composer, arranger, jazz archivist maybe, as well as having your own voice at the piano, and movie scorer in recent years, and a lot of studio work. Is that something that just kind of came naturally from in your career early on to cover a lot of bases?
I think it was always the natural thing to do. I don't know quite how it developed, but I always had the philosophy that if something needed to be done, I would do it, and if something didn't need to be done, I would try to keep my mouth shut and just do whatever the job was. So that developed in a number of unexpected ways, and it still is developing that way. Those things you mentioned, although jazz archivist is a term that I've never been quite comfortable with. It seems to imply that I spend time in dusty libraries looking up trivial information. It all starts with the fact that early on my big brother brought home a lot of classic jazz recordings, and at a very early and impressionable age I memorized them, and that's really the core of my knowledge, all of those old 78s that he introduced me to. The first wave of reissues, which would have been a long time ago now, but the first wave of 78 reissues on Columbia Records was involved with Bix Beiderbecke and Armstrong. And on Victor, they were putting out reissues of the Jelly Roll Morton records of the 1920s, all of those things. So those were my fundamental instruction.
I want to hear some of your music. Are you working still on and off with Ruby Braff? That's been kind of you've done studio and concert work with him for quite a few years.
Ruby and I are often a duo in concerts, and we made a bunch of records by now. The newest one is My Fair Lady, song selections from My Fair Lady, and that's on Concord. We did it in 2 sessions, and it was a happy time. We rehearsed it a lot. That is to say, we didn't just go into the studio and hope that inspiration would work magic. We really thought about the tunes a lot and figured different ways of doing them. But, not to the point where you could say anything at all was substantial was written down. We just became familiar with them. And in one case, we weren't quite sure which way to go with a certain tune, and that's why there are 2 versions at different tempos on the record of With a Little Bit of Luck.
It just came from not being able to decide which you preferred to do?
Well, it was time to record that song, and we just began playing it, and then we remembered, oh yeah, we already rehearsed that, and we have an entirely different approach. Well, let's do that one now. Two of them were about equally good, so we put them both on the record. Carl Jefferson had the idea of featuring that funny thing in the notes and in the title of the album. We called it My Fair Lady with a little extra bit of luck.
That's from the most recent recording on Concord Records by Dick Hyman, who's our guest in the studio, and Ruby Braff, the cornet player, a great melodist. He has a great sound, doesn't he?
He's a wonderful player. He is a truly creative and individual player. And I consider myself fortunate to have been his partner really, well, something between 10 and maybe 12 years ago we first did this. And as I say, we played numerous concerts, and by now, maybe half dozen recordings.
It's an unusual duet instrumentation, but it harkens back to a pretty good one in the 20s with Armstrong and Hines sort of paved the way, I guess.
Well, the idea of piano and cornet, yes, we are directly thinking about Armstrong and Hines records of 1927, I think. Weatherbird Rag was the one that really establishes what can be done with those two instruments.
Let's talk for a minute about the new CD that you have done that is the first direct-to-CD recording. It was a fascinating process.
Yeah.
We heard some of it last week on the Jazz Legacy, a couple of things. Is this a brand new release?
Yes, it has just been released, or within the last couple of months, by Reference Records, which is a San Francisco company that is particularly devoted to high-end audio product.
On the Bosendorfer reproducing piano, it seems sort of like a 90s player piano.
Well, it is exactly that. A player piano that we can recall, if we're old enough, is the kind that had pneumatic air activating the keys with a piano roll. a kind of a scroll of paper with perforations in it. But nowadays, the piano is activated by solenoids, electrical, and the whole thing is encoded on a computer disk, a floppy disk. This recording was the process was a fellow named Stanke, who calls his process pianomation, and he installed it in a wonderful Bosendorfer piano. But the peculiar thing about it is that I recorded it on a piano in New York, a Bosendorfer piano, and then sometime later it was played back on a different piano in Santa Ana, California, in a recording studio. So what I recorded in an acoustical sense was not what I heard back. And it was a very strange sensation because what I heard it back on was a better piano than the one I first used.
But technically, the notes, the time, everything was...
Technically, everything, every nuance is exactly the way I did it. This is a remarkable piece of equipment that scans each key action 800 times a second, which is so sensitive that the very touch that a pianist plays with is really recorded, and the pedal action is also done in an equivalent way, so that what you get may really be exactly the way you play it. And in this case, what we got was able to be played back on a better piano than the one I played it on, which is ironical, but improvement right there.
And then that recreation on another piano on with a floppy disk involved is pressed direct to compact disc.
Yeah, well, the recreation is then, the way they did this, it was very complicated, but the piano played in the studio, and the signal was converted into a radio signal which was beamed to a mastering studio. And the record was made from that very performance of the piano without any intermediary step on tape or any other system. So what you get in the end is a disc which is the master. Any one of the discs you buy is an equivalent master. And that's pretty remarkable.
Amazing. Well, enough for high tech. Let's hear a couple of Fats Waller songs. Dick Hyman at the piano, at the Bosendorfer reproducing piano. From the newly issued direct-to-CD compact disc, Fats Waller's music, performed by Dick Hyman. Dick Hyman is with us, and you're tuned to The Sound of Jazz here on WUSF and WSFP-FM. The Sarasota Jazz Festival is upon us, bigger and better than ever in the 10th annual. It's 5 nights this year, and unlike previous years, every night is really something entirely different, and the whole 5 nights is sort of under the title, The Amazing Dick Hyman. You've done a lot of work as the music director and planner, but you're also in the headline on this one.
I'm the honored guest, you might say, and I'm very grateful for that. In other words, it's my turn on the barrel this year. I think Milt Hinton was the last honoree.
Mm-hmm. And he's back this year, right?
And Milt will be with us. Actually, this year should be Milt's. In many other places, Milt is being honored because it's his 80th birthday.
Right.
Which is just an amazing thing to think about. But we're doing, some of us are involved in a concert of Milt's in June for the JVC Festival in New York on his birthday. But here, I am helping Hal Davis with the programming, and the we're having more specific themes and more arrangements than in the past. I've been trying to put together a variety of things, and some of them are historical sort of things. I'm interested in jazz of the past as well as the present, and I find the audiences are too. So we'll be doing some recreation arrangements of Artie Shaw, Benny Goodman, Jelly Roll Morton, Fats Waller. And Monty Alexander comes equipped to do 2 remarkable and very different things. He has a Nat Cole show. He sings and he plays Nat Cole's style.
He's really a versatile musician.
He's a wonderful player, yeah, and versatile. And the other thing he's going to do is bring his Caribbean trio, which includes a steel drummer, a percussionist, and a regular drummer. So he'll bear the burden for a couple of nights in that way.
And then there's a big band night as well, like a battle of the bands.
Well, on the last night, we'll divide up all of our forces into 2 units, and we will do that legendary thing called the Battle of the Bands, which really means that we'll just play opposite each other and pass the ball back and forth, have a certain amount of competition. But then we'll join forces to play for Mercedes Ellington and her dancers. And I believe this is the first time there has been any dance at the Sarasota Festival. The orchestral night is the second night, and that involves Paul Wolf and the West Coast, Florida West Coast Chamber Orchestra, augmented by some of our players from the basic festival. And it is my compositions for orchestra, several of them with piano, and this one I just mentioned for orchestra alone. And then some things I wrote for soloists. One, Walt Levinsky will play soprano sax in an arrangement I did from a theme from The Purple Rose of Cairo. That's one of the Woody films. And Warren Vacher will be featured on a piece I wrote for him called Waltz, called the Bobby Hackett Waltz.
Oh, but you wrote it with Warren in mind?
I did write it with Warren in mind, yeah, because he's very much in the tradition of Bobby Hackett.
Sure.
So
and there's a piece with Milt Hinton that night?
Well, Milt will be doing a piece which he composed, which I arranged for him, called The Judge Meets the Section, and it involves Milt as a soloist and 4 other bass players.
Oh yeah, but you've put an orchestral.
Well, no, that's all there is on that one. We're just having pure bass.
Oh, okay.
And that'll be a specialty.
What's the next Woody Allen movie going to be about?
I don't know. I really don't know. I haven't been contacted on this, and I'm not sure that I will be, because Woody has the option sometimes of not using an original score at all.
I ask that as kind of a joke because there's the mystique around his movies that there's not to be much talk about as filming goes on and so on. But you've done
Well, it's true.
the last quite handful of his movies, as well as Moonstruck, the full
Yeah,
score.
yeah. It's true that when you work with Woody, you work in great secrecy on a need-to-know basis. If I do music for specific scenes, I don't necessarily get to see the entire film. That's the case in the past, anyhow.
That's a pretty unusual way to work, I would imagine.
Well, if it's necessary to see the whole film, of course we will, but I have a feeling that Woody prefers people not to know, in the same way that he doesn't title the film. Every film you work on with Woody is called Woody Allen's Fall Project, which sometimes leads to confusion later. Which fall project are you talking about, 1985, 6, 7, and 8? But he's wonderful to work with, and he's very knowledgeable about what is needed musically and otherwise.
Do you have a film project in the works? Are you?
No, I'm between film projects now.
We spoke a couple of years ago, and you were in the process of doing one. It was fascinating because I was stopped by your place in Venice, and there was a chart on the wall, scene by scene, and you were filling in what parts had been written and what had not.
Yeah.
And it must be quite a project to link together what you have to do for scene after scene as the film goes on.
It can get pretty complicated. You may end up with as many as 40 to 50 separate pieces of music that have to go in the film. Some of them only a few seconds long. None of them, I would say, more than 2 minutes long. And to do all that, you may have to have as many as 4 or 5 or 6 recording sessions. And just to keep track of all that, I suppose, is like a novelist keeping track of all of his characters and making charts about the exact action. Because it's not only the music that needs to be written, it's the logistics of it, the individual players who have to be hired, and the studio that has to be booked, and a few other things of that practical nature. It's a big thing.
With so many different irons in the fire that you might have at any given time, are you happy these days with the division of your labor between playing clubs or concerts and composing and film work and so on?
I think so. Actually, what I do now is somewhat different from what I have done in years past. I guess the main difference now is that I become somewhat of a ham and enjoy playing for people. There was a long time when I just primarily played for other musicians in recording studios or broadcasting studios. And I had to really get out into the real world and begin playing in clubs and concert halls. Now I do that really more than anything else, and I enjoy it. I've gotten to be happy about audiences being there and hoping that they're enjoying what I'm doing.
Well, continued success with a little time off on the beach along with it, and we'll look forward to seeing you and a lot of other great players in the coming week at the amazing Dick Hyman Sarasota Jazz Festival, and thanks for taking some time now.
Well, I thank you very much. It's been very pleasant chatting with you.